Broadcasting from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk. Welcome to the Gailey Show. We are the only daily LGBTQ radio news and talk show in the United States. I am your host, John Parker. And no matter where you live, from DC to Abilene to North Dakota to San Diego, we've got you here on the Gailey Show. I am your host, John Parker. Not sure if I just said that, but we're coming off of the Christmas weekend or half week, however you want to say that. And if you're surviving and got through it, or if you had a great weekend, I hope all of the above for you, and that we are kicking off your week well as we're going into now New Year's. But if you are listening or watching rather on YouTube in the 2 p.m. hour, please consider subscribing to this channel and leave us a comment. I know I've been saying this now for the past week, but we're very interested in stories that you would like us to cover in 2026. Obviously, there's some big things around the economy and legal stuff and the elections, of course, and the Olympics coming up. But if there are stories either specific to your neck of the woods or, nationally speaking, internationally speaking, let us know, and we will begin to map out that coverage for you, unless you're MAGA, and then I don't care what you have to think or what you want us to do. All right, what is on the show today? So the UK government is offering reparations to LGBTQ service members who were discriminated against during that country's military ban on LGBTQ service members. So we're going to take a little bit look into that. There were 3 Democrats who voted against transgender health care in a recent vote in Congress, and 3 who didn't even show up to the vote. And then there were 3 Republicans who voted for transgender healthcare. So we're gonna name names on that particular story. If we have time, I want to get into some numbers from the Kennedy Center, specifically their subscription numbers and what's happening there over the past year and what we may project into the future, given that it's supposedly now the Trump Kennedy Center. And then we're going to take a look at Jonathan Bennet's new LGBTQ Christmas rom-com that was streaming on Hallmark Plus this December. It is still December. Should you watch it the week after Christmas? We'll let you know if that's something that you should check out. But first, I want to get into a story that is a difficult story. So I'm going to say that right now. And it's one that's striking home to me right now, particularly. So for folks who have been listening to this show, watching this show for the past year, at this point, you know that I grew up in a very Christian household. My dad's side of the family were Wesleyans, Protestants, and on my mom's side of the family were Armenian Protestants, and we were all in on that, and I was all in on that. I went to Sunday school. I went to youth group on Wednesdays. I was going to become a youth pastor. Went on mission trips. I mean, the whole 9 yards. Even gave a sermon on a Sunday evening when I was in high school. All in. But as a queer person, that was also very difficult. And reconciling those two things for a lot of queer kids who grow up in Christian homes was very traumatic. And there was a lot of therapy that I went through in my late 20s and in my 30s and even into my early 40s. And you may be thinking, he's 40? I look great. And I do look good for my age. But it was tough. Let's just put it that way. And there is a story now coming out of Massachusetts. It was the Advocate who I'm going to be looking at their particular reporting on that. And what has just happened is that Massachusetts, blue state, has removed state rules that were guiding foster parents and the placement of kids in homes. And what they've done now is they've removed support for queer kids completely. So there were lawsuits from families and threats from the Trump administration against the state of Massachusetts, because Massachusetts said that you cannot discriminate against queer kids. And these plaintiffs, these Christian parents, quote unquote, refused to sign an agreement with the state that said, these kids that we're going to foster, we won't discriminate against them or attempt to change their sexual orientation or their gender identity. They refused to sign those documents and instead sued the state. Now, the Department of Children and Family, which governs the adoption and fostering of kids in the state. This is, reading from their previous guidance that they were required to follow, which is that employees and foster parents and interns and volunteers and others who interact with children and families must be respectful of how individuals ask to be identified and use the terms an individual uses to describe themselves. This included allowing foster youth, so parents having to allow their kids to use restrooms and changing facilities that align with their gender identity, allowing them to dress however they want to dress and have their hair however they want to have their hair, and have their pronouns and their names be names and pronouns that align with their gender identity. And if they're gay, to have boyfriends. And if they're lesbian, to have girlfriends. And if they're bisexual, to have boyfriends and girlfriends. Well, Christians, certain ones, said, no, I'm not going to do that. It is our right as foster parents to discriminate against these kids. It is our right as foster parents to enforce our religious values on these kids who may already be out. That's the thing that's getting me here. These kids could already be out and have lived part of their lives out of the closet. And now they're going to be placed in homes where they are going to be psychologically tortured under the guise of religious freedom. And that is the lawsuit that the Trump administration was bringing forth, an investigation that was accusing the state of Massachusetts of violating parents' religious freedoms. What about the freedom, the religious freedom of kids? Do they not get them? Particularly when they are being forced to undergo medical treatments that harm them? We know that conversion therapy doesn't work. We know that the denial of gender-affirming care for kids harms them. Decades of research on both of those things, decades, prove that point. This isn't just me trying to make stuff up or to, take a little bit of data points and mend them into my argument. It's indisputable. The science is clear. But under the guise of religious freedom, we will now be placing in the state of Massachusetts kids who have lived part of their lives openly into homes where the parents can say, no, not anymore. Not anymore. You're going to go to conversion therapy. Jesus doesn't want you to be gay. Jesus doesn't want you to be transgender or non-binary. So we're going to take away your health care. We're going to force you to learn Bible verses that tell you it's a sin to be gay, to be lesbian, to be bisexual. We're going to psychologically and spiritually abuse you with that falsehood and make you live that till you're 18 years old and you can escape. Now, I was not a foster kid. I was not adopted. So there's a layer of this that obviously is outside of my personal lived experiences that I cannot really speak to because I don't know the full depth of that experience besides what I read in research and I read in reporting and firsthand accounts of that. Okay. But I do know what it is like to be spiritually abused, to sit there every single day being told that the end times are coming, that Jesus could come back any second now, and that if you're not straight and cisgender, you are going to be left behind to go to hell. Do you know what that does to a queer kid who is trying to be straight and can't? That's what I mean by psychological torture. That's what I mean by emotional and spiritual abuse. When you have a person who is being told, a kid, a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old, who wants to believe that and is having that stress because they want their parents to love them. This is what religious freedom has come down to now. This is the Christmas season because this came out just here in December, this rule change that the state of Massachusetts did. Shame. Shame on those families. Shame on the Trump administration. Shame on any court that says that kids aren't allowed to have religious freedom, that kids don't have rights to not be subjected to medical treatments that we know are damning them. And we know that gender affirming care helps them. We know that conversion therapy harms kids, and now we're willingly sending them into homes where they're going to go through that? Shame on you. Shame on you. We're going to take a break now. We'll be back with more on The Gailey Show. Welcome back to The Gailey Show, super depressing Gailey Show. I am John Parker. I'm not going to have self-deprecating humor. I stand by everything I said in the A block, but woof! Let's turn to some more upbeat news that a government is taking right now. And even though the UK government is certainly not perfect, we have a very interesting story coming out of the United Kingdom, where the government there has already paid out in US dollars, 43 million US dollars in reparations. It's being characterized as reparations to LGBTQ vets who were harmed under the military ban in that country. And apparently not every eligible veteran has been reaching out to the government to get what is, monetarily anyway, owed to them. And it's been, I didn't know about this. I saw a recent headline sort of popping up that on the 1-year anniversary of this. So the Ministry of Defense launched what it calls its financial recognition scheme, which in the US, like America, scheme has a very different connotation than what scheme means in the UK. Apparently, scheme is sort of like here's our agenda, here's our plan, here's our program. And they've been running this for a year, have handed out $43 million to veterans. But the Minister for Veterans, Louise Sanders-Jones, who is a member of the Labour Party, is saying now in a statement that reaching every eligible veteran remains our most significant challenge. She went on to say in the statement that we are working to connect with the community individuals who may have understandable reasons to be cautious about engaging with defense communications. Many carry the weight of past mistreatment, and rebuilding that trust takes consistent effort across multiple channels, from traditional media to working closely with veteran organizations, NHS partners, and veteran employers, end quote, from that statement. Minister Sandra Jones came in with the Labor government last summer in 2024 when Labor swept into power and reclaimed it after 14 years of conservative rule in the UK. A lot of mixed feelings on how Labor has been doing in the UK over there. Some, folks are saying some good things, and folks are saying not a lot of great things there. And actually, the Green Party has been exploding over there with its new leader, who is also out and gay, the Zach Polanski, who is the Greens leader of the Green Party. And they've quadrupled their membership since he took over in September of 25. But back to the story at hand here, there is, so Lord Etherton in the UK had organized a LGBTQ Veterans Independent Review, which highlighted some of the really bad situations that LGBTQ plus military personnel were facing under the ban, and which wasn't lifted until 2000. Now, theirs was in 2000. We didn't end ours for several years after that here in the United States. And now we have a defense secretary who said repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell was a mistake and would like to go back in time. And we also see, obviously, the banning of transgender service members completely across all branches of service right now. So really interesting to be reporting this story. Looking into the great reporting from LGBTQ news outlets from the UK and here in the States who are covering that, to seeing a government acknowledging the damage, the harm that was caused by their actions in 2023. So this kind of got started under, actually, interestingly, a conservative government. The prime minister, the final conservative prime minister before Labor took over, Rishi Sunak, actually publicly apologized for the military ban. A conservative. Go figure. And earlier in 2025, the King Charles III, attended an unveiling of the first ever memorial to LGBTQ plus veterans. So, interesting to see both conservative leadership and Labor leadership and the, how do you refer to that? The royal court? The king, also recognizing LGBTQ veterans. And so what do they get, right? So they've received 1,300 applications so far over the past year. They've processed 983 of them. And every applicant is eligible up to $95,000 US. And depending on, how the application is evaluated. And there has been some, controversy, as you imagine, something that's being characterized as reparations. There would be controversy around this. The Fighting with Pride is an LGBTQ plus veteran advocacy group, and they have been really in the weeds of this process with the government and also trying to hold the government accountable. And they have actually been prodding the government, saying, you're not moving fast enough on this. Why is everything being so slow? Why is it taking so long to process the applications? Like you said, you were going to do this, and you have the resources, and people are applying and then not hearing anything for months. And then some of them are assuming, well, I must not have gotten anything, and just sort of moving on. So now Fighting with Pride is saying, okay, things are finally picking up here, and they're finally starting to process these claims. Sandra Jones, again, Minister of Defense, is actually coming out now and saying, yes, we have had problems with this, saying that we've even had too many problems tracking down records. So they're trying to get that up and ready to verify what's in the application process. But, to see to see this finally getting started. And I don't know, I mean, on YouTube, I think we have some folks who live in the UK who are viewers, at least according to our YouTube statistics. I don't know if there are UK folks who are listening on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're getting your podcasts. But if you know veterans who are part of the LGBTQ community and were trying to serve or denied service prior to the ban being lifted in 2000, then definitely, reach out to them. And let them know that they are eligible for this program and should put in an application. Fighting with Pride, that organization, queer veterans organization, has said that it could be upwards of 5,000 service members who are ultimately affected. And there is a closing date for this as well, which is not still out. It's in 2026, so December of 2026 is the closing date. So they have a year still to get everybody who is eligible their monetary compensation. And want to also recognize that monetary compensation does not necessarily help with all of the other pain and everything that a soldier went through or a service member went through. But it is very, hey, some good news to be looking at, to see that a government is trying to do the right thing and getting better at doing the right thing. And hopefully we'll reach everybody and get everybody who deserves it their monetary compensation. We are going to take another break here. We will be right back at the Gailey Show on AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk. More after this break. Welcome back to the Gailey Show, coming to you from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, and the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk where facts matter. I'm John Parker. It is 33 minutes after the hour already. If you are streaming on YouTube, please consider subscribing. And if you are like, why does he always keep talking about YouTube? You should maybe check us out, because we're creating all sorts of playlists from the Gailey Show on YouTube. So like, we put all of our Chicago coverage together in a single playlist, and all of our Texas coverage in a single playlist, and every author interview we've ever done on the Gailey Show for the past 3 years. I think there's over 70 author interviews that we've done there, talking about their new books that they've got coming out. Or, I mean, if it's, 2 years ago, came out at that time. So if you're looking for a good book, we've got all of those author interviews scheduled, lined up for you. Not scheduled, lined up. You can just hit play and they can all go down right there for you. So definitely check us out there. And if you subscribe, you can see all of our clips from shows as well, and the shorts, the YouTube shorts. I'm still trying to figure out the shorts thing. So if you've got stuff that you think you'd like to see, let us know. Leave us a comment. There's a whole community aspect to YouTube as well, where you can, we can all talk to each other on it. And so would love to see that get started as well. All right. So there was Marjorie Taylor Greene's legislation that would essentially make it a crime to provide gender affirming care to anyone under the age of 18. This vote happened earlier this month. It's looking like this is going to be the last legislative thing that she does before she leaves Congress. What a great way. Great way to be going out of Congress, is to, criminalize healthcare that is safe and sane and helps people. After, we know this from decades of research. I'm just going to keep saying that over and over again. What was interesting about this vote, though, is that 4 Republicans voted against Marjorie Taylor Greene's bill. I misspoke earlier. I said it was 3. It was 4 Republicans that voted for it, or against her bill, rather. There were 3 Democrats that voted with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then there were Democrats that didn't even show up for the vote. So let's name some names, shall we? So I guess, thank you to the following GOP representatives. There's Gabe Evans, Gabe Evans is in the 8th district of Colorado. Apparently, that is a very toss-up district. And so even though he's a former farmer and a former police officer who's a big fan of gun rights and homeschooling, he voted against Marjorie Taylor Greene. And then you have Brian Fitzpatrick. Brian is in, or Congressman, I should be more respectful, Congressman Evans is in the 8th Congressional District in Colorado, and Congressman Brian Patrick represents the 1st District in Pennsylvania. Interesting watching how Pennsylvanian representatives have been voting recently. I think recognizing how the terrain is treacherous for them in 2026, and that they may be losing their seats because of how terrible the Republican Party is polling and how terrible they are doing in elections right now. And this is, Congressman Fitzpatrick only got a 61 out of 100 on the Human Rights Campaign's evaluation of his record. 100 is a perfect score. He got a D- on that. Was able to climb up into that was his first term, actually. Got a 71 in his second term. And in his fourth term now, he got a 41 out of 100, right? But we, now on his campaign website, according to The Advocate, there is a page on equality and diversity. Yeah. And he says, quoting here from one of the sections on his campaign website, LGBTQ Americans are part of the fabric of our society and should be free to exercise the rights guaranteed to every American by the Constitution to participate fully in our society and pursue every opportunity. So there's that. And yeah, there you go. Representative Mike Kennedy represents the 3rd district in Utah, former family physician. This is I didn't know this, had to look it up. The 3rd district is in a very Republican, very MAGA friendly territory. It's in the south east of the state, and went to Brigham Young. Or is part of Brigham Young. I'm sorry. That's where he represents, is part of Brigham Young. And he has voted against criminalizing gender-affirming care for youth. Voted against Marjorie Taylor Greene. You've got Congressman Mike Lawler, who is in New York's 17th Congressional District. He actually beat a gay Democratic candidate 52-46 in 2024. But Democrats have been outperforming 2024 elections by an average of 13 points. So I think Lawler is sort of reading the tea leaves here and going, oh, shoot, I might lose this by double digits in 2026. And this is a guy that even though some folks are like, oh, he's a moderate, he's a centrist, he got a 30 out of 100 on HRC's evaluation of his first term. There you go. Now, the Democrats who voted with Marjorie Taylor Greene, this guy, Democrat Henry Cuellar, Congressman Cuellar represents the 28th Congressional District. He has been there since 2005. This guy was indicted for bribery, money laundering, and conspiracy, accepting bribes from the government of Azerbaijan. And earlier this month, he was pardoned by Trump because Trump is just going around pardoning everybody who's being investigated by the government for bribery and money laundering. Yeah, so Trump gives it to him, the pardon, and then got really upset with Congressman Cuellar when Cuellar was like, no, I'm not going to switch over to the Republican Party. So was he being bribed again? Did Trump knowingly be like, hey, I'm going to give you a pardon, but the expectation is that you're going to become you're going to join the Republican Party? Dude. So here's a Democrat voted with Marjorie Taylor Greene against peer-reviewed well-known, decades of health research saying that this care is safe and sane, and a Democrat said, nope, not going to do it. Also, Congressman Vicente Gonzalez from Texas's 34th congressional district, right next door to Congressman Cuellar's, he's been in office since 2017, and he had a perfect score from the Human Rights Campaign, but he voted with Marjorie Taylor Greene. How about that? Congressman Don Davis, who represents the 1st Congressional District in North Carolina, has served in that role since 2023, military veteran and academic, voted with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah, that's great. On his Human Rights Campaign score, he got a 68 out of 100 in his first term. And then we have 3 Democrats who didn't show up for the vote. Congressman Eric Swalwell, Congresswoman Lucy McBath, and Congressman Joe Courtney. Apparently, Congressman Swalwell, when he's not on MS Now, currently represents California's 14th Congressional District, is running for governor, and apparently has been absent from a number of votes because he's running for governor of California. Yep. Congresswoman McBath has had 3 perfect scores from the Human Rights Campaign, represents Georgia's 7th Congressional District, and wasn't there for the vote. And then Congressman Joe Courtney represents Connecticut's 2nd Congressional District, has been in office since 2007, and also mainly received perfect scores from the Human Rights Campaign, and he wasn't there either for the funding bill vote to vote against Marjorie Taylor Greene. Not seeing here from Advocate reporting on why those 3 weren't there. Obviously, we're seeing that Congressman Swalwell, when he's, again, not on MS Now, apparently has been campaigning and not showing up for votes. Love it when that happens. But with friends like these, right? With friends like these, we also see the junior senator from Arizona, Senator Ruben Gallego, also just coming out hard against the transgender community. As it relates to sports, as it relates to healthcare, it's here's a Democrat that's doing it. It is the reason why I'm bringing this up is here's an instance again where we're seeing, weirdly, Republicans who are reading the tea leaves and going, I've got to moderate on issues if I'm going to retain my seat. And you see Democrats who are buying into this false choice, this false narrative that it's either win or have LGBTQ rights and healthcare, which is a false choice. And the data is proving that over and over and over again, particularly in the electoral wins in November. But you've got a bunch of think tanks and a bunch of pollsters that are saying, oh, don't support transgender people, don't support queer people in 2026. And now you've got Democrats, 3 of them, that are falling into line with that false narrative. I mean, when people are like, what are you talking about false? Like when you look at the MAGA candidate, gubernatorial candidate in Virginia, Winsome the MAGA candidate in Virginia, all of her advertising, the majority of it was anti-trans, somewhere like 57%, according to Jen Psaki on MS Now. And she lost handily in Virginia. So yeah, this is a false choice happening here. You've got Democrats that are falling into it and making the wrong choice. And I am on board with David Hogg on this, where you know what, primary them. This isn't a litmus test. This is a, do you believe in healthcare? Do you believe that people should have access to proven, safe healthcare? And if you don't, the so-called party of healthcare, the Democratic Party, if you don't believe in that access, then no, primary them, get them out of there. We need a coalition of people who believe in science. We need a coalition of people who believe in access to healthcare for everybody. Not thinking, oh, I get to pick and choose who gets to have healthcare. That's not any better than the Trump administration. Nowhere near any better than the Trump administration. Who gets to say, oh, I decide. I get to decide as a person who's not a doctor who gets to have healthcare and who doesn't get to have healthcare. Primary them. This isn't a litmus test. This is not a litmus test. This is a, do you believe in the fundamental right of humans to healthcare and access to that healthcare and self-determination to have that healthcare? You're either on board or you're not on board. Okay. Briefly, you know what? I'll get to the numbers after the break here, but I'll start this story. So apparently, the Kennedy Center has just been tanking in its sales here, and the new renaming, which apparently Trump just can't rename it as a congressional. You need Congress to do that, but of course he's just gone ahead and done it and renamed it the Trump Kennedy Center. They are hemorrhaging not just audience members, but acts, like performers. And we're going to get into a little bit about that from Washington Blade reporting. So we're going to take a quick break. You are listening to AM 950 Radio, KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and WCPTA 20, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. More after the break. Welcome back to the Gailey Show. We are coming up on the top of the hour. I'm John Parker. So some numbers, interesting numbers from the Kennedy Center. The fallout that continues, not only since he took over and named the board of the Kennedy Center, all, Trump acolytes earlier this year, and now the renaming of the Kennedy Center, the illegal, apparently, naming of the Kennedy Center to the Trump Kennedy Center. Well, apparently there are consistent videos of folks who are going to the Kennedy Center, taking videos of all the empty seats that are during productions now. And they acts have declined. Hamilton, the touring production of Hamilton, didn't go there. They're, of course, not letting, LGBTQ or LGBTQ artists and companies are deciding not to go there, knowing that they're also just not welcome there. And the what is this? Washington Blade is reporting and linking to some interesting data here where let me see if I can find this exact percentage point here. They are down. So last year they sold $4.4 million in subscriptions for theater and dance and classical music and other seasons of performances. And this year, as of June, they're only up to $2.6 million. So let's see here, the classical season, the New York National Symphony Orchestra's revenue is down 22% through the first 10 weeks of their subscription campaign. Yeah. I mean, you get to a point and it's like, how long can you go with, there's the number I was looking for, 30% decline, 36% decline. I mean, how long can you sustain that before you have to start shutting down or scaling back on programming? How long can you go? Or maybe they'll get Jeff Bezos to fund it, and then it'll become the Trump Bezos Kennedy Center of the Arts. Good Lord. All right. There is a Christmas rom-com that came out earlier this month. Should you watch it? It's on Hallmark Plus. It's called A Very Keller Christmas Vacation, from the king of gay Christmas rom-coms on Hallmark, Jonathan Bennet. It is directed by McLean Nelson. Writer is Tracy Adrien. Stars Jonathan Bennet, Brandon Routh, Eden Scher, and it's Hallmark, and we get to have these movies too, right? We get to have these movies, so I'm never going to be like ragging on them. The synopsis of it is that 3 reluctant adult siblings join their parents on a Christmas river cruise through Europe, each dealing with their personal issues, only to find unexpected joy, romance, and family bonds along the journey. And Jonathan Bennet plays the middle child. He is the, architect, neighborhood designer, and high-powered, etc. The older brother is the athlete, the star athlete, who is a coach now, I believe at a university or a college, big deal. And then their younger sister, the youngest is the sister, and she is a data analyst, and she gets laid off before the holidays, and they're all coming into this cruise with turbulence. The sister has been laid off. Jonathan Bennett's character, he proposed to his longtime partner, but was turned down. And then you've got the older brother who is divorced, and then was going to get with the love of his life, or go tell her like, hey, let's get back together. And she got married to somebody else. And so they're coming into this and not telling the parents, and not starting to tell each other as well. So they kind of have to develop their bonds all over again. And you have some crisis as well with the parents. And then you get some fun Christmas stuff along the way, because they're on this cruise, and the cruise is like, hey, everybody, we're going to have a gingerbread house competition to do. And then there's a tour that they go on in one of the German cities or the Austrian cities that they're in. And so you get to see some great location. I mean, it's either the location or it was really good reproductions of sets that look like these various German cities. But it is cute. It is cute. The 3 kids get lost in a city, and the boat goes away without them down the river, and they have to find a way to get to catch up to them at the next city. And they're basically in one of those motorcycles with the little sidecar in them. It's silly fun. And if you don't have Hallmark Plus, you can do what I did, which is to set up a free trial, which I think goes 3 days or 7 days. Don't quote me on that, but I did the free trial and then watched the movie and then looked around for other LGBTQ content. I really didn't see anything, and then just canceled my subscription before the trial ran out. And so you can watch it for free, streaming at home on your own time on Hallmark Plus. So I'm going to say, go for it. Watch it. Very Keller Christmas Vacation. I mean, it is only recently that Lifetime and Hallmark have started making gay movies as part of their, month-long epics of, every single day there's a new Christmas movie on both of those channels. And so to finally see this glass ceiling broken, and to have, gays and lesbians and queer people just generally represented there. Now, is it perfect? No, it is not perfect. Do we see various gender identities represented in there? No, we do not. But to finally have broken that glass ceiling, to finally have queer people represented in there. Hopefully this means that we will continue to get more of this, and to get queer writers and directors who are giving us more of this, as opposed to just one movie from Hallmark and one movie from Lifetime. Maybe we can start to get, like 5 or 6 of them as well. Well, that is what we've got for you today. Tomorrow, we're going to have a guest host, Jake Wittig, managing editor of Windy City Times, who is also the 2025 Chicago Journalist of the Year, named by the Chicago Journalists Association. He is going to be here guest hosting for the entire hour live, so stay tuned for that. Up next on WCPT 820 is Democracy Now! On AM 950, it is the Matt McNeil Show. Stay tuned after that for Native Roots Radio. And then at 10 p.m. Central, Step Into the Unknown with Greg Bakken on Ghostbox Radio. See you tomorrow, everyone.